When you think about gut health, you probably think about bloating or farting or going to the toilet too often. But this is true, it's not the full story. It affects your digestive system, it also affects your physical health, your immune system, as well as your mental health, which plays a role on your concentration, focus, and mood. So this means that if we want to live healthier lives, that it involves getting our guts in order. And so in this video today, we are going to summarize a bunch of evidence and helpful actions that we can implement into our daily life. So it's not just about the constipation, the bloating, and the diarrhea. It's much, much more than that. It impacts our mental health, it impacts our body and our mind. And on top of that, our immune system, which we will come to learn. So as a doctor, I have learned about the diseases regarding the gut. But in medical school, we don't really learn about nutrition and the fundamentals of how we can look after our gut on a day-to-day basis to improve the quality of our lives. So that's what we're going to jump into. And on top of all of that, a major thing to note here is that we can't forget that nutrition and diet and the things we put into ourselves is one of the 5 pillars of a healthy lifestyle. So these 5 pillars include diet and nutrition, the other being stress and stress management, the other one being sleep and rest, another being the relationships that we have in our lives, and the final one being movement or exercise. So these are the 5 pillars of a healthy lifestyle, and no matter who you speak to, there can be variations of this. What are the most important things in terms of a lifestyle? But these are the absolute pillars, the most important things, and in this video today, we are going to zero in on the nutrition aspect of it and talk about 5 really easy tips to improve your gut health. So let's get into the video. Before we dive in, I just want to mention that stress is also an important component, and if you want some free resources on that, please make sure to download our stress management guide. I'll leave that in the section below. So let's get into the video. So what is the gut and what is the GI tract? So what are these two interchangeable terms? So the gut or the GI tract is short for gastrointestinal tract. So this is the long tube that starts at the mouth and it ends at the anus where we poop from, essentially. The main role of the gut is to break down the food that we eat, absorb nutrients, and then get rid of the waste. So there's a lot of traffic going on there, and we need to be mindful of that. But it's not just that, because the gut is home to something called the gut microbiome. This is very important. What is that? The gut is home to trillions of bacteria, you heard that right, trillions, and other microorganisms that help break down the food that we eat and transform them into the nutrients that our body needs. So when we eat various foods, let's take fruit and veggies, for example, it goes through the colon where it comes to the gut microbiome and it gets fermented. What does having a healthy gut mean? Well, it means the food that's coming down into the colon, to the gut microbiome, it impacts it in a way that it does its job properly. So we want the bugs and the bacteria to be there, the trillions of them, to be diverse, to be robust, to be stable, to be balanced, and ultimately to be healthy. So this is what it means to have a healthy gut. Now, why is that very important? Because it affects us. If it's imbalanced, it affects digestive disorders. It can lead to bloating, diarrhea, constipation, IBS. But also goes beyond that, impacting our immunity, our mental health. Science has shown this. So there's more of them than there are us in our gut. So it's better to get along than to not get along. So what are 5 simple things that can help? So tip number 1 is to try and eat a lot of plants per week. So 25 to 30 plants per week. This sounds daunting, but again, we'll break this down into simpler terms. So let's just break it down into simply ingesting this day by day. So don't think of it as a week, 30 plants per week, but rather as a day by day thing. And that way it seems less daunting. And on top of that, you have to keep in mind what plants are. So when I say 30 plants, I mean really 30 plants per week. So that includes fruits and vegetables. That can include grains. So we're talking about wheat, barley, oats, corn, and rice here. We're talking about the nuts and the seeds. So that whole family, legumes as well. Sometimes we often forget about these, but these are very important as well. So from the list here alone, you can see that it's pretty achievable. When I was doing the research, I was thinking, how is it possible? But it's easier than it sounds, especially if you break it down into days. So over 7 days, that means about 5 different plants a day. So that sounds a lot more manageable now. So for example, during breakfast, you can have oatmeal topped with some fruit, nuts, and seeds, and all of a sudden you have hit 3 to 5 of the plant foods you need for the day. So later on, you can have a snack containing something similar, dinner and lunch, and so on. So what is tip number 2 then? Strive for variety instead of consistency. So this kind of ties into tip number 1, because we want to eat different plant foods, so 30 different ones throughout the week, not the same stuff every single day, because you don't want to look like this branch in the wintertime. You want to look like this branch with all the various colors of leaves during the fall, for example. So this is important because we need to have a healthy gut microbiome, and a way to make it healthy is to keep a variety in the diet. I know sometimes it's easier to do the same thing every day because you're trying to lose weight or count calories or build muscles in the gym, but if we really want to improve our gut and health overall, then we should aim for this variety. This goes hand in hand with tip number 1. So it's very, very important to do this. So for example, it's so easy to implement tip number 1 and tip number 2 if you're doing meals like this. So just sprinkle some stuff on the top, make it different every day, and we go from there. Tip number 3, target 30 grams of fiber daily. Everybody knows we love fiber on this channel. Please check out our other videos regarding that topic, regarding diverticular disease, regarding fiber, the importance of fiber, and so on and so forth. We have plenty of videos on that, but it's no wonder that our guts are destroyed. It's because we're eating all this processed garbage on a daily basis, like you see in the picture here. So most people in the Western world, actually, modern societies, industrialized societies, you eat less than half the amount of daily fiber. Most people don't even know what colon transit time is. Most people don't even know how often it is to open your bowels is normal. So is it every day? Is it every other day? Some people go once a week and they think that's normal. What is fiber? So it is a type of carbohydrate. That's what fiber is. Sometimes people don't really know what it is, but it's a carbohydrate, and it can be soluble or it can be insoluble. And essentially, it's a type of carbohydrate that we don't break down. So it's the insoluble part of a plant, a non-digestible part of a plant that goes down into the colon, the large intestines. So not having enough of it leads to bad things. So it leads to constipation, which is probably one of the most serious non-talked about Western illnesses that doesn't get talked about enough, because it has been shown that there's an association, if you lack fiber, with heart disease, with diabetes, with cancer, with other chronic conditions, not to mention the digestive ones. So hemorrhoids, diverticular disease, you know we love diverticular disease on this channel, irritable bowel syndrome, and so on. So that's very important. If you don't have enough fiber, then your bowels will go looking like the one on the right with the happy poops, looking on the left with the diverticula and malformations going on. So now tip number 4, ingest some probiotics. So take probiotics. What is a probiotic? So they are foods and supplements that contain live microorganisms. So some of that bacteria that you have, the aim of it is to improve the good bacteria you have in your gut. So ultimately, to add diversity and to add variety. So this is not saying to take a probiotic and forget about the rest of the things you are eating because you are covered with the probiotic supplement. No, you are not covered. You should focus first on the food, and then probiotic supplementation is exactly that, a supplement. So rather focus more on the food than the supplementation, but you can always supplement on top of it. So there are studies and research that show probiotics help to really good degrees with something called the gut-brain axis. So this is why the gut microbiome is so important, because there's a communication with your brain there. So in one study, they took 55 healthy volunteers that were given the probiotic, and the other group, they were given nothing, a placebo. The probiotic group had a serious reduction in psychological stress levels, so they tracked it. And it wasn't just, oh, hey, how are you feeling? But it was a monitoring of what's going on in their blood. So they measured the amount of cortisol that they have. So that was an actual quantifiable thing there. It wasn't just going by their emotions and their feelings, but they rather measured something tangible within the body, and it showed an improvement after taking probiotics. You have people who have illnesses like IBD who lack a certain set of good bacteria in their gut, and it's always the same subset. So it's very important to keep on top of the bacteria that are good. Tip number 5, 2 portions of oily fish per week. This is really important because it stimulates brain development, it stimulates good bacteria in the gut. So these are very important things to consume oily fish at least twice a week. You've heard of terms like omega-3, EPA, DHA, long-chain fatty acids. Well, these are really important for these things we just mentioned. So it's absolutely of utmost importance to consume some oily fish, because if you're not, then you're depriving yourself of these important things. Sources of oily fish, so salmon, mackerel, sardines, they are rich in omega-3 fatty acids, particularly EPA and DHA, which are essential for brain health. They play a very crucial role there. And some would argue, if you care about it, that it's less of a carbon footprint than it is eating meat on a daily basis. So there you have it, 5 easy tips that you can implement every single day. If you just follow these 5 tips, I promise you, you'll feel better by a good 50%. Gut microbiome, extremely important. There's more bacteria there than there are human cells in the body, so it's better to get along with them than to not get along with them. If you don't get along with them, they'll absolutely make you feel terrible, both in your body and both in your mind and in your soul and beyond. Thanks for watching the video. Like and subscribe for more. We'll see you in the next one.